Hot to trot.
Let's get the doings up. Right. And I'll just get 2 minutes to make sure someone comes on. So we are. Right, let's go for it, mate.
Sounds fun.
So, cool. Morning and welcome, Will.
Good morning, Mr. Paul.
How are you?
Good, not bad, mate.
Good. Right, mate. So I wanted to get you on today to talk about how you managed to transition from military life into a self-employed tradesman and operating in the space that we're in now. So tell us how you did that and how you found it. How did you come to be a soldier in the engineers to becoming a self-employed electrician in Barton?
Well, it's not a very long story. Basically, I'd pretty much done all I could really do within the army. I mean, I didn't get very far, mate, to be honest. I didn't really enjoy it. So I used the skills the army taught me. Obviously, I was a sparker within the army, and I pulled that into Civvy Street. But I had to transition through a social housing company because we don't always use sparking in the army, you know what I mean? So I used them as my bridging gap to being self-employed. So basically, I just honed my skills, mate, while I was with them. And then when I felt I was, you know what I mean, in the right place, I pushed to being self-employed. The reason I ended up in Barton is just basically family.
Yeah.
I mean? It's just family's close and obviously childcare and all the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, it was hard. Don't get me wrong, right? It was hard. Coming out, obviously, not everybody's looking out for you. I found that very, very quick. I found that out. Obviously, within the army, everybody's in this little bubble, and we all look after each other and that. But coming out, mate, it was a completely different world, and I had to change my outlook quite dramatically, to be honest. But yeah, I kept my morals, mate, but just made myself aware of everybody else's.
So what would you say? What would you say would have been the biggest, the most difficult thing that you found when you transitioned from military to civilian? Now, for me, when I left, I'd done 14 years when I was in, and I left at a point where I found that within the engineers, what generally came with age was rank. So generally speaking, the older the person was I was speaking to, the higher up the food chain and the hierarchy they tended to be. So when I left and went into construction management, I went to work for a company where all of my subordinates, the people that I was managing, were older than me. And I found that really, really difficult to come to terms with. I was like being the manager or the boss of people that were older than me was a real shift in the demographic and the dynamic I was used to.
Yeah. 100%,
so
mate.
What did you find was the most difficult thing, the most challenging transition?
Most challenge, like I've spoken, was mindset. Like I would do things for people, thinking that would then be reciprocated because that's just how it worked. So I would say, right, no, it's all right, mate. I'll cop for that. I'll do that. But then when it came back round to it, it wasn't the same. You know what I mean? They had a different set of morals. So it was moving away from this. Everybody looks out for each other to I'm looking out for myself. Now, obviously, I kept my moral. I just made myself aware of everybody else's. I understand what you're saying though about the age thing because you're a sprog. So if you were a sprog, you weren't very high up. You know what I mean? And that's and that's just the way the army works. Like obviously, everybody in the 40s was staff sergeants. You know what I mean? WO2s.
Yeah.
And then, but pulling away from that, I mean, I was working with boys that were in the 60s, side by side. So it was finding that common ground with these older boys and trying to be. Do you know what I mean? Trying to pull them to my thinking. It was the hardest bit, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's go on to property and how we came to meet was I think we was pricing up a project in my dogs. Excuse me. I think we was pricing up a project and we had our go-to Sparky that we used all the time, and you came on board and challenged that price. It was, you literally walked into my office and said, "I can beat that," which was brilliant for me. And our relationship's grown since then. So has your prices, but there we go. So coming from working where you was working first into the property space, we'll call it. You must see recurring themes whilst working on these projects. There must be stuff that's, even if it's a fault of mine in my business or a fault of a client's, you must see sort of themes that happens each time. So what are those things? What are the things that what we as a business could improve to make your life easier, and what a client could do better to make your life easier and that project run that bit more smoothly?
Right. I've got a few points for this because I've been waiting for this question.
Right, you bastard! Put your ears back. Here we go.
Right, spec is the biggest issue. It's knowing what you want and how you want it. Right, as a client, you need to know the ins and outs of your full build. So, as me as a spec, I want to walk in. I want to see either a drawing. So that would be the best. That would be the best case scenario. I'll come in and see, right, they've got an architect's drawing. They want this there, this there, this there. You know what I mean? But 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. So
yeah, I mean, just to interrupt. I don't like interrupting, but I will. When you say an architect's drawing, I think in the property space, the challenge there is that these guys that are buying property to add value in the form of a refurb, they don't really have that luxury of an architect's drawing on every job.
No, I understand that.
When you say a drawing, what type of detail would you expect to see on that drawing?
The type of detail I expect to see is socket positions, light switch positions. They're the 2 biggest things, mate. If someone comes into a room and say, right, I want the 3 sockets in this room, the first question is where? Where do you want your sockets? Do you know what I mean? Where are you putting your bed? Where are you putting your furniture? Mm-hmm. Where am I going to put these sockets that are most useful for you or the person that's going to be living in this house?
So an annotated floor plan would do for that, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So obviously switch positions. Which way is your door swinging? Is the biggest thing, because I've had jobs before where they've had doors swinging one way and they've decided to change the swing of the door and not tell me. So now the light switch is on the wrong side of the door, which sounds daft, but it is quite an issue. You know what I mean? It's an operational issue. Stuff like boiler position. Where you want your thermostat heating controls. These are things that some people overlook. They don't think about these things. You know what I mean? It's all about the running of the property. You know what I mean? How you would live in it. So if I put the thermostat at the top of the stairs and you spend most of your time in the living room, it's no good, is it? You know what I mean? It's about functionality of the property as much as anything else. Lighting positions, another one. Do you want downlights? How many downlights do you want? What kind of arrangement do you want them? Obviously, there's more than one way to put them in. Mm-hmm. So there's a few things that need clearing up before, obviously, I can even really start. To be honest, before I can even start first fixing, because my first fix has to go in before plasters and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. So if that first fix then changes, or they say, all right, I'll change this position to there, it's going to cost me time. It's going to cost them money. So it's all about how this conversation happens. Like obviously the drawing would be the best bet, but failing that, walk around the property with a marker pen, draw crosses on a wall. Do you know what I mean? Write on the wall, say this is where the boiler's going, or this is where I want this socket in this room. This is my kitchen drawing. Everybody has a kitchen drawing. You know what I mean? If you go to a kitchen fitter, they'll give you a kitchen drawing. So, and then feeding into that is how many kilowatts does your cooker draw? What size cable do I need to install? You know what I mean? These are the questions I will be asking, obviously, the client. But if the information is presented to me, I don't have to, do you know what I mean, bother with that. So, even things like fridge freezer position, we've had it before where this fridge freezer is going here. 2 weeks later, the fridge freezer's moved to the opposite wall and there's no power point for it. So, or it's a cupboard that was a cupboard is now turned into a fridge freezer cupboard. That thing, we've had that before between us. Yeah. I had one with it. The whole downstairs of the property was open plan, apart from the walls for the staircase. Everything else was open plan. This woman was going to town with it, mate. She's like, right, this is going here, this is going in, this is going here. Right, my kitchen's going here. I was like, yeah, no bother. Fair fixed it all. Next day, no, the kitchen's moving to do the end of the room. Right, okay. So it's as much as having a drawing, it's just having a plan is another big thing. You know what I mean? You have a plan, you stick to it. Don't start changing. It's just going to cost you money. You know what I mean? Unless it adds value in your head to what you're doing, and you can gain that money back. Changing is not a good idea, mate. Halfway through a job, that is a bad idea.
Yeah. You know, that's something I teach and try and get across to people in the academy. You know, whenever you change your mind, be it a product, service, or position, it's going to cost you money. But I think that people don't appreciate that that change is going to cost money. So let's say you first fixed the kitchen and they change their mind and they want a socket moving. In my experience, people believe that there is no extra cost there because, you know, the cable's there, the socket's there, but they don't realize that is you've got to go to the property and physically move that. So we're talking travel, insurance. You know, you're not on another job earning dosh on another project. You're being pulled back to this one, and you can never get away from it.
Yeah, 100%, mate.
Yeah. So another question that I'm often asked, and it is often, it's not something I say just to lead into a question. I'll get property strategists, I'll call them developers, that come to us and say, how do I know whether this property needs a rewire? So it is a very commonly asked question. A lot of people, like the one over the road you did for us last week, I believed that needed a rewire. I'm not an electrician, but you've gone in and said, look, Paul, it doesn't need a rewire, and it was a 400 quid job, which is fucking mega for me. And it's a bonus, but that could have gone the other way.
It could have gone, yeah, 100%.
So what would be your top tips for doing that property viewing? What are the things that jump out that say to you, this needs a rewire? Like that Donny job you did for us, that was like, mate, this is a rewire, 100% this is a rewire.
That was a death trap, mate, that property.
What is it that when you walk in on a viewing, bear in mind, you know, the person that's viewing this property could be a complete layman and have absolutely no idea on electrics. What are the main things that jump out and say, this is a rewire?
Right. So the point that you fell for, which is the first point I'm going to come to, is old style consumer units, rewirable consumer units, old MK consumer units with the big daft metal front that you can't get to the fuses. They're even older. That indicates the age of the wiring straight away. You look at that, you say, right, that's early 80s, even 70s, 60s, some of them. The wiring is going to be no newer. So you got to look at that and think, right, this could potentially be a rewire. Without getting into it, get my tester out, taking the mega ohms and all the rest of it, I couldn't give you a definite answer. But that is a good indicator. The second indicator I'm going to come to is imperial cable. I mean, to say that, it just sounds like just a word. But imperial cable means that when you physically look at the end of a cable, obviously the newer stuff is solid. So anything up to 2.5 will have solid core cable, right? The old imperial stuff will be branded. It'll be twisted. Sorry, braided, not branded. It'll be twisted. Now, that indicates that it is 30, 40 plus years old. You know what I mean? So then that screams, well, how long is it going to last? You know what I mean? So, and then it's even worse if it's aluminium. You know what I mean? And that was just after the war. So you're pushing 50s, 60s. You know what I mean? So when copper was scarce. So again, that pushes towards, I need to get an electrician in to check this property. Old Bakelite switchgear. So it's got a brand new switchboard, got a new fuse board, but it's got old Bakelite or older style socket fronts and switches. And you're thinking, well, they've just changed the fuse board. Do you know what I mean? They haven't actually done anything to the rest of the installation. So that then would obviously, I would say, look at it. Right, the fourth point I'm going to come to, green goo. Now, this is like it's I'm going to say it does look like green goo. That's why I call it green goo. But it's like it's a liquid that leaks out of the sockets, the light fittings. You'll feel it in your fingers. It stinks. It's not a definite indicator of a rewire, but it's a good sign. That means that cable's had age. That's got real age to that cable. That cable is old. You know what I mean? It started leaking. It started disintegrating almost. Obviously, things like if you come across old rubber cables, definite rewire. They are disgusting. As soon as you touch that, it will disintegrate. Lead cable, I've never really seen lead installed. I've seen it left in after a rewire, but lead cabling, like lead sheath cable, that is old as time itself, that kind of stuff. Old braided cable, that needs to come out. Another thing, whipping light fitting off, see if it's got earths, because back in the day, they didn't used to run an earth through the lighting circuit. That'll give you an indication. That needs rectifying regardless. You know what I mean? That will mean either a lighting rewire or a full rewire. And cable sizing. I mean, this is a bit more technical, but if you whip a socket front off and the cable looks ridiculously small, that's been thrown in. You know what I mean? Someone hasn't done that to standard. It's so. To summarise, those are the points you need to look for, but you're always going to an electrician to check it. I mean, none of those points say, right, this is a definite rewire. We need to get someone in quick to rewire this property. The electrician, a decent electrician, will always come out and give you an honest opinion and say, look, this is not to standard. I mean, that one we did in Doncaster, I put my bell testers across it, and it was less than 1 megawatt. It was every circuit was like 0.7. It was ready for blowing up, that place. it was bad. And there was pulling the kitchen out, was junction boxes all over. Nothing was done properly. Everything was, I mean, there was rings within rings, and it was bad. So that was what pushed me towards a full. I couldn't put my name to that, mate. So I had to just pull it out, mate. Start again.
Yeah. So just answer that question that's just popped up on the screen there, Will, and we'll just jump back into that. Can you read that?
Morning, lads. I've seen it. Sure it causes. Right. Age basically causes green goo. It's almost like an oxidization of the cable, and it's started to leak on itself. I mean, like I say, it's not a direct indicator of a rewire, but it's a good sign to get your electrics checked. Some people say, right, green goo, that's it, rip it all out. But until you put a bell tester on it, until you get your mega ohm tester out and say, right, this cable is degraded, it's not a definite indicator. I mean, it's a good indicator that it needs checking, but it's not a definite indicator it needs a rewire.
Yeah, good stuff. So what you're ultimately saying is there is actually no hard and fast way, no hard and fast rules of doing a property viewing and actually determining this needs a rewire without having those knowledge experience of the Sparky. So, some of the good indicators are going to be the board. Yeah. On the flip side of that, there could be a new board, and the rest of the house has not been upgraded. That was the case at Donny. Now, what is it? Some of the things that I see personally on viewings, and which makes me think, is sockets on skirting boards. What would you set to that?
That shows age. That definitely shows age, mate. You haven't been able to do that for a long time, mate. Sockets and skating boards. Like, for one, you can't plug anything into it. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? You try and plug it. Yeah, people just turn the socket upside down, mate, and plug it in. But yeah, that shows definite age, mate. That would be, again, I'd add that to my list, mate, as an indicator. So that shows, like I say, that shows age. So I would then get that checked. If not, well, you're going to be moving them anyway, aren't you? So if you're going to be moving them up, causing destruction, work, all the rest of it, because this is normally upstairs. Sometimes you find it downstairs because just the way the drops, they used to come up and straight into the skating board. It was just easy and chasing the wall out. So you normally find us upstairs. So if you're doing that, you might as well pull it out and start again. I mean, it's for the case of what, an extra day's work, day and a half's work, you might as well start again. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's an investment. I mean, obviously, sometimes you don't see this investment back if you're selling the property on and all the rest of it. But if you're looking at leasing or letting the property out, you can sleep safe at night knowing that it's been done properly. You know what I mean? You're not going to have any issues and all the rest of it. Yeah, yeah.
So I'll put you on the spot now. Let's talk a bit about pricing. So obviously, every rewire is going to be different, depending upon spec, the existing installation, all the rest of it. So, and obviously the size of the property, the number of bedrooms, the end user's use, what they want to do with it. So obviously a HMO conversion is going to be a lot more expensive than what a normal house of that same size would be.
Yeah.
And also those rates are going to vary across the country. You know, in Middlesbrough and Middlesex, you're going to, it might be 200% difference. So I'm not going to pin you down and say to you, can we have a price for a rewire for every property in the UK? Because that's not going to happen. So if we said we were going back to brick in a property and all the wiring needed doing from scratch, right from the board and everything in the house, all needed doing, and we'll use a 3-bed semi-detached house, council house in Scunny. Scunthorpe, for that's the people that don't know what that is. What sort of numbers are we looking at for a standard, single pendant in each room, 2 sockets in each room, a really standard, basic entry level rewire? What sort of numbers are we talking? What range between what and what?
Bog standard, mate. If you're saying like pendant in a room, do you know what I mean? Standard white fittings, cheapest to the not cheapest to the cheap. You know what I mean? The cheapest decent ones you can get your hands on. You're looking between 1900 and 22, I'd say, in Scunthorpe. I think that is a fair price, just for the fact that obviously the labour involved and all the rest of it. But yeah, between 1900 and 2.2 would be around about the right price for that kind of spec. Obviously, you start adding downlights, you start adding decent socket. You know what I mean? It all starts to creep up, mate. You know what I mean? It's all extra work, so that will start to creep up. But between 1900 and 2.2, mate, would be about right.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good rate, mate. To be honest, now, if you was to take that chunk of work and look at it and say, what would you deem to be included in that rate? Because this is something I bang on about a lot when I look at comparing quotes, and I can get a Sparky quote in this hand and a Sparky quote in this hand, and you're saying between 1900 and 2.2, but the next guy might come in at 1100, 1200, and when you start drilling into what is actually included in that, you know, he wants all the furniture out, he wants all the floorboards lifting, he wants all the ceilings dropped. He's not going to make anything good. None of that floorboard will be put back down. You know, there's and then there's no outside lights included, no TV cabling, no BT, no all the rest of it, all those little bits of add-ons. And I get that the 1100 guy is setting me up for extras. I understand that. But so for an 1900 to 2.2 sort of range, would you what type of things I've just said there? What would you expect to do yourself, and what would you expect to be done for you by others? Yeah,
for that kind of range, I'd be looking at obviously full labouring. So I'd be chasing, I'd be chopping, I'd be pulling floorboards, putting them back down. I'd be obviously doing the full install, including TV back to the aerial. Not so much data at that price. Data's going to be extra on top of that price. But I'd be doing the TV back to the aerial. I'd be doing the thermostat install, all that kind of thing that people would overlook. You know what I mean? So obviously, getting a boiler and think, oh, I'm going to get a thermostat with the boiler. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? I will always have to install the thermostat. That's just how it is. So that would be me all in for that price. Making good, obviously, I'm not going to plaster him, I'll be honest with you. So someone will have to be plastering for me. But that would then include, obviously, you'd be looking at getting a guarantee with that. So the 1-1 guy would come in and say, right, yeah, I'll do it for 1-1, but 10 weeks later, when there's something going wrong, he won't answer his phone. And that's, so you're going to get that. So you'd get a 3-year guarantee off me for the property. Any issues, I'll be back. If I'm provided the materials as well, obviously I'll cover the materials, the cost of swapping the materials out if there is an issue with the materials. So all that kind of stuff. So it's more about looking forward as well as looking at the job. So you're paying 1,100 quid for a rewire. You're getting Dave from down the pub to do it, and a couple of his mates. That's basically what you're getting for 1,100 quid. You're not getting any kind of insurance. You're not getting any kind of guarantee. So it goes Pete Tong. You're paying twice. That's just the way. That's the way it goes. I mean, nobody can run a business, mate, doing rewires for 1,100 quid. That's just not happening.
I get that, but I often hear it. I often hear people say, when I say to people, you're going to be looking around $2,000 for that rewire, I often hear things like, oh, I know such and such will do it for 1,100, but them comparisons, to make that comparison, you're not comparing onions with onions. You're comparing it with something else. So, I mean, on the flip of that, if you went to sort of London or somewhere down south, then them prices could as much as triple.
100%, mate. Yeah. I know Sparkies down south that are on 85 quid an hour. That's just, I know.
You buy the All Barton for that. Crazy. Yeah,
it's mental prices, mate. I mean, I used to work for a firm. We used to do national testing and installations of certain property. I won't go into what, but it was Ministry of Defence. But we were down south in London. We were working on a building, and we knew I was getting paid a set rate, and obviously I was getting paid a northern rate. And I knew for a fact the Sparkies in the building next door were on 3 times as much as me, and we were working next door to each other. But that's because my cost of living's lower up here. I can swallow that. You know what I mean? I'm not living in London. I'm not have to deal with all this idiots. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff going on. So I can swallow it because I'm going home at the end of the day. I'm not bothered. You know what I mean? But yeah, the price range is huge. You know what I mean? If you go from the north down south, it's massive. You know what I mean? You can't give a standard price across the country. It won't work.
Yeah, right, yeah. There's another question just coming there. Do you know Mark Joyce?
I don't think I do. Anyway,
ex-Enger.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's best to get jumping. Right, that depends on the job, mate. If it's a small job, I'd be looking at pay by the hour, more than likely. If it's just install a couple of extra sockets in the room, do you know what I mean? I'd give an hourly price. I won't give you a solid price for that. If it was a larger job, like a rewire or I don't know, a full new install, I'd be looking at a solid price for that. Just for the pure fact is that if the job takes longer than the spark is quoted for, you're going to bite it on a bigger job. You know what I mean? If it's took him 8, 9, 10 hours longer than he's got in his head, and you've got an hourly rate rather than a set price, you're going to bite for them 10 hours. Whereas if it was a set price, he swallows the 10 hours, and that's the way the job works, mate.
Yeah. Sound. Right. We're coming up to the half hour, mate. So, have you got anything else that might help anybody? Sort of do their developments a bit more effectively, a bit more efficiently.
Right. Let's have a look. Right. So, understand the importance of having an electrical test done before you start work. So, if you're going to start work and you think, right, I need to do this, and this, but you don't write in an electrical test, you're setting yourself up for a fail. Because if you get 10 weeks into that work, Sparky comes to swap a couple of socket fronts and install a fire alarm, and then he does the test on the installation at that point, and the installation's pagged, you're pulling it all back out again. That's, you know what I mean? That is going to happen. You're going to have to chase some walls and all the rest of it, and it's going to push your end date back by quite a way. Another repeat mistake is people having no plan. They're just winging it. They're saying, right, you do what you want, and it comes to the end, mate, and you're butting heads, and you're trying to get in where the plumber's in, and do you know what I mean? Nobody's got a set plan of where the socket's going, where the switch is going, and it turns into an absolute, I was going to say clusterfuck, but I don't know if I can. But that's what it turns into.
Clusterfuck, right.
And then obviously that leads into my third point, was the DIY SOS approach. So throw blocks at a job and hope it works out. It never works out. You can't just throw blocks at a job and go, right, get it done. It doesn't work like that. People are going to be climbing over each other. People are going to be chinning it off because they can't be bothered with it. That is going to happen. You know what I mean? DIY SOS is a program for a reason. You know what I mean? It's on TV for a reason, because it's a TV program. It's not real life. Back to my pains. Last pain I've got, lack of general info. Now, this comes down to the wall finish. Is it dot and dab? Are you skimming? Do you know what I mean? What are you doing with those walls, ceilings, floors? If you tell me that early on, I can arrange my price to suit. So if you're dotting and dabbing, happy days, I'm not chasing. So my price would come down. If you're skimming, obviously I'll have to chase out, the price goes up. So it's letting me know exactly what you're doing with the property, and at what point you're doing it. So if you're giving me 2 days for a full rewire, I'm going to turn around and say, no, I can't do it in 2 days, love. Sorry. You know what I mean? You're going to have to push your plasterer back. So feeding me into that program and letting me know what's going on, obviously, is a big issue. I know we've covered the kilowatt rating of appliances, stuff like heating. If you're having electric heating, you need to let me know what kind of kilowatt size your electric heaters are. If they're over, if 2 kilowatt or over, they need a dedicated supply. So I need to write that into my price, and obviously I'd have to wire that as per. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the plastering, mate. That is a good point. Yeah. So chopping out, it's not something I've ever considered for you, actually. I just get your price and that's it. We get.
If I'm not chopping out,
we'll do a chasing. I thought you said you're doing a chasing.
If I'm saving time, you're saving money, mate, and that's what it comes down to. If I'm on a price and my time in the job is not as much as it would be if I was doing something else, obviously the price correlates to that. So yeah, that's definitely something you need to keep your sparking for, and that kind of thing. I mean, if I chase out you dot and dab on top of that, my socket's now 80mm back off where it should be, and I've got to get stupid long socket screws in as well. So that's another issue. I've come across that before. That was thermalite a brick. Oh my god, that was unreal. Trying to get it flat and it ended up fucking 3 foot back.
Yeah. No, that's been brilliant, mate. Oh, there's another one here. Just come in. Let's get that one up.
Well, let me fingers crossed kitchen in 3 weeks. And if I can plaster full 2 electric sockets, then cuts out. Right, fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You get that a lot with plasterers, the bugger straight filling boxes.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Let's just turn that off. Right, sound mate. Right, good to see you. And
You too, Paul.
I'll see it this week at some point, I've no doubt.
100%, mate. Yeah.
Socially distanced, though, of course.
It's socially distanced, at least 2 meters apart.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. Penis mask and rubber gloves. We're good to go. Right.
Happy days, mate.
Well, see you later, mate.
Pal. See you later, pal. Ciao.
Ciao.